Oh my God. Do you see this? First of all, these Coke bottle glasses is like my right eye. I guess it's your left eye. I haven't said anything or said hi or did just followed up with anybody. I really wanted to be outside and be more active, but I just haven't been in the mood. I haven't got whatever you want to call it. I have what is that called when it's T TMJ? And don't ask me to pronounce it. Just look it up. But it's where there's nerves that come in here. So sometimes I have a difficulty, but not a lot. I'll still run my mouth. So I just check it in because it's been forever in a day. And I thought, you know, this is March of 2025 and it's been kind of scary. So I'm just going to say to all those out there in the world, do not think that all Americans think the way things are going right now. Not at all. Not even close. And I get kind of upset when I hear uh, being compared to all Americans, being compared to how this is, that is, and that's like me comparing anybody to anybody else, no matter what country you're from, what city you're from, what state you're from. Because the thing about America, it's kind of like Europe in a way, right? It's not like we have a whole different language in respect to these different states. It's the idea that the north, south, east, west, each state, if you ever were to come to visit America, is completely different. So, for instance, you see New York. Put it this way, New York City. Or they see California and they see Hollywood. Well, even in California, when you go south, you're getting more towards Canada. Weather-wise, it's entirely different. Anything north here is going to be colder. Anything south, obviously, is going to be warm. I don't mean to make it sound as if you are not intelligent people or that you can't look it up yourself, whatever. But what I'm trying to get to is a lot of people in the north, because of how cold the winterization, back when I was a young chick in the keep it together. A lot of people, they called them snowbirds in Florida because they would retire at 65. This happened for decades. So the thing about Florida in itself, you have a lot of refugees or people that have came from, say, Colombia. Uh, I just went blank on southern islands and uh, Cuba. These are all different languages, different cultures. And then you have the North coming in. So the way they speak, there's some of them have like a southern twang that goes along with maybe a Hispanic twang. I don't know. I saw the change. I saw it go from where there were a lot of people, elderly, that were coming down to, and they retired, and then they had maybe a nasally Yankee sound. They say, my Brits, the UK. So anyway, Ireland, Hey Sue, different things that have us like I was born and raised in Ohio. First of all, the word Ohio, the name Ohio, actually is pronounced like Ohiho because it is Indian. In my culture, my people, I'm 1/8 that are Shawnee Indians. Anyway, there's a lot in Ohio that more north you go, they do have a nasal sound, and they'll say things like I said, dolls. They'll say dows. I don't even know if that's a good example. So, needless to say, when I left Ohio at my where I lived and where all my people, ancestors wise, were on, came from Kentucky, mountainous Appalachian Mountains. Most of them, the big portion of my where my DNA comes Scotland, Ireland, and I have done my ancestry. It took me 10 years, but I have it going back to the 1634. That's mostly my dad's side, even though there's a handful that come maternal. So I'm very proud of my heritage. I'm what they call, ketchup that's called Heinz 57 because it's got 57 different spices in it. Little trivia. So I've always said I'm like a Heinz. I'm a Heinz 57 because I've got such a. My people go all the way back to the Dutch through France. It depends on what war, it depends on what upheaval, religion wise, the Jacobites, you name it. And when I was researching this, I was fascinated because, my sister, I have one sibling, and I never did say, I think, gender, but I might have gave that away. Try to stay where it's respectful of those that want to stay anonymous or don't want whatever. She's always thought she was like a queen and that we came from. And I said, baby doll, actually on my dad's side, that's whenever they were emptying out jails. I even have a book I bought off Etsy. And when I saw it, I about flipped out and I paid some good money for it. But it's all the ships. And this was when, like you didn't have an opportunity, you didn't have a choice. And they were like indentured servants. So a lot of on my dad's side that were Scottish and that came through, one of them came through, I almost got it, Inverness-shire. And, I could name them, who married. Back then it was nothing that they married and one died young, maybe a woman, and childbirth happened a lot. TB, flus, they didn't have what we have today. So anyway, I looked at where it was at, and I had the documentations because most of it was the churches that maintained, dear God, maintained the records. So I've been able to surplus these and put them up, and it's been a journey and a half, but it's also been an awakening and a proud awakening. I wish I would have talked more with my grandparents. I actually knew of my great-grandparents, which they were born in the latter 1800s. But I actually have even a picture. Now, my mother passed away in the early 70s. But when my great-grandmother came up from Kentucky, because my son was born, and he was the first grandchild, great-grandchild, all that. So to be in line for 5 generations, which for me is a big deal because when I say my family, that would be my home, not so much the outer and cousins and all that, but we were small, two siblings. My sister did not have any children until she was almost in her early 40s. I had already started I got pregnant at 19, but I had my first at 20. And then I had all my 3 by the time I was 28. I had actually lost one child, baby. So anyway, back to the culture, back to where you're from. The Dutch that came over here, a lot of them settled over toward Missouri, Minnesota, places that the farmland, the way back then they were giving away land too. If you ever look at American history, I'm very proud of where I'm from. Very proud of what, the Irish, as far as coming over due to the potato famine, and there was this, big influx, 20,000 at least. That's just young men. That's not including their families or whatever else. A lot of times they'd come and set it up and then bring them. But they were immediately dressed, set up, given a gun, and went straight to work, go to war at the Civil War. You're talking not hundreds, but tens of thousands that did not have, they were glad to have a little bit of money coming in, food daily, place to sleep. There's an old expression, 2 hots in a cot, and you just get grateful for whatever you have. So what I want to say is, and be done with it, we're a melting pot of this world. I would, I have been so grateful to be born during a time. I wish that my parents could have seen it. I know my grandmother, my dad's mom, hated the microwave. Absolutely. All she did was keep her bread in it. You know, I grew up with knowing people that were born, in the 1800s. So that not only puts me there, knowing, being a part of, getting recipes and stories, and actually my maternal grandmother painfully, and I think, yeah, I just went over a little bit. It's all right. And I'll pick this up later. Was when her father was killed in a coal mine. She had her and her two sisters, and my great grandmother put them in an orphanage. Now, my uncle, which was one of my mother had two brothers. That's another story. And he told me that, they didn't stay long. It was temporary. I go, where are you getting? I said, Grandma sat me down and talked about it. I mean, she didn't understand why her mother never came back and got her. In fact, my great-grandmother remarried and had 6 more kids. And one of them, recently, who would be probably a third cousin to me or something. But that property, that farmland, that whole thing was my great-grandfather, the one that was killed. I have articles that his father, who was very educated, which a lot of mine weren't, which is one way, nothing to me. I'm sure all you got to do is make sure you eat and have a roof over your head. It wasn't about, could you read a book? The book wasn't going to feed you. So, long story short, my grandmother told me about how difficult it was for her to see her half-siblings go to school, walk to school every day. And she, they knew each other and hi and whatever, but no, she never went and got them back out. In fact, my grandfather rode on a white mule and picked up my grandmother, so to speak, at 16 for her first day. And they were married within 6 months. So she married right out of that orphanage. This is a woman who's my superhero. She went through absolute hell. I mean, losing her daughter, which was my mother, that's enough. Anybody to lose a child. So, needless, it's good to see y'all. I'm glad to see everybody. And I'll catch back up with you later, okay? Peace.